What's up guys? Welcome to episode 6 of the Basics series. Today we're going to learn how to cook a steak. Let's get into it. Alright, to begin we want to get as much moisture off the steak as possible so that we can develop a nice crust. Using a paper towel, we're going to begin blotting the moisture off the top of the steaks. These are New York strip steaks, about a half an inch thick, but this technique applies to any steaks that you decide to cook. We're then going to give them a quick flip and then repeat the process. Don't be scared to really salt your steaks well. This is going to help draw as much moisture as possible and enhance the steak's flavor. While we give the steak some time to absorb the salt, we're going to make a chimichurri. A traditional chimi base is made with lots of parsley, garlic, oregano, and chilies, which gives it a very bright flavor profile. Here I've opted to use parsley, scallions, and garlic as my aromatics, as that's what I had lying around. Typically you'd use 3 to 4 cloves of garlic, but since I'm also using scallions, I decided to cut back a little on the garlic. If you want more of that garlic bite in your chimichurri, you can definitely add more. The parsley is the main star of this sauce, and is what gives it that bright green flavor and color. Make sure to give it a quick rinse before you get started, as parsley is usually grown in a sandy environment, and I'm sure you guys don't want any sand or dirt in your sauce. Don't worry too much about the stems near the top, they're a lot less fibrous, and we're going to give this a fine chop anyways. Moving on to the scallions, I like to cut the bottoms, and then we're going to give them a fine chop as well. This is going to add some brightness to the chimney and give it a slight oniony flavor. To our chopped aromatics, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, 3/4 of a cup of olive oil, a 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar, freshly ground black pepper to taste, and about a teaspoon of salt. As we give this a mix, the herbs are going to continue to soften up due to the salt and vinegar, until you're left with a pesto-like consistency. Once our chimney is done, we're going to go back to our steaks. By now all the salt has brought the moisture out and we can blot it off with a paper towel. You may want to lightly re-salt your steak since we blotted a lot of it off, or you can just re-season it afterwards with some finishing salts. Now it's time to cook. I'm using a preheated cast iron pan as it cooks much more evenly, but if you don't have one, a regular preheated pan works just as well. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and get it ripping hot before I put my steak into the pan facing away from me. Since these steaks are about a half an inch thick, I'm only going to sear each side for about 2 minutes. If your steaks are a little thicker, you can finish them in the oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit to your desired doneness. I prefer medium rare, which is what you'll get with this technique if your steak is around a half an inch thick. I love cooking steaks in a cast iron because the crust always comes out nice and even. If you're using a thermometer, I would pull the steaks once they've reached an internal temp of 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and then let them carry overcook to an internal temperature of 130 degrees for a nice medium rare. Once we let the steak rest for at least 5 minutes, we're going to slice the steak into bite-sized pieces. For presentation purposes, I like to fan out the steak and eat the end pieces as a little treat before dinner. This steak came out a perfect medium rare, and right on top we're going to put that delicious chimichurri we just finished making. The acid from the vinegar and the brightness from the herbs is going to pair perfectly with the fattiness from the steak. I really like the chimi, so I'm going to add some more, but let's give it a try. Dude, I love this combination so much. It's so simple but so good. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. And I'll also leave a guide for steak doneness temps in the description. I'll see you in the next one.